All right, hey folks, we should be live. I'm going to check in my signal here real quick to see if that's true. If it is, I'll just go ahead and post real fast that we're up and running and we'll get to work this morning. So I'm a little jazzy over coffee, so strap in. Holy Hannah, that is coming in loud and proud, y'all. Okay, cool. That's good. Let me scale this back a touch, and then let's grab the link here. And we'll switch over. Let's see. Check in. That's good. Yeah. Good. Post. And then we'll go to Discord real quick. My name is Phil Kearney. Hey, what's up? I create role-playing games. I illustrate them. And I publish them online. I've been focusing my attention on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Publishing content on the DMsGuild since 2017. I've been an Eberron enthusiast since 2004, and I've been a DM since 1987 and a freelance illustrator since 1999. So I love 5e. I think it's a fantastic game engine to design for. I absolutely love taking pieces of it and rebuilding or repurposing different mechanics into other things. Super fun. But I've never actually created an adventure. So this is my the first time I've done so. Crystals Bar is for 7th and 8th level characters. You're fighting Emerald Claw undead and demons in the Carnwood of Karnath on the continent of Corberk. So we're making a tree today. Okay, there we go. All I had to do was click over like this, and then let's yeah, that works. Cool. I'm on the X Twitter platform. If you're there as well, I'm at Phil Kearney. I post the works in progress, early looks, coupons, articles, new releases, stuff like that. Check it out. Here on YouTube, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications when we're live in the future. We're at episode 380. We've done all the maps, tokens, and other assets needed to actually run the adventure. We've play tested it with multiple DMs, multiple teams over the past year and a half or so. It's been going great. Here's the full list of all 380 episodes. Here is the cover that we created back around episode 40. And here's our current page. So this is in the, I need to update this. We don't call it an act anymore. We're calling it a part. So I need to update that. I'm going to end up doing a sweep scan of the entire document for anywhere it says part. Consider switching it to act. And God's willing, there's only a few stragglers. I may have already updated that. We'll check in. Not important right now. Hey, we're working on the tree. So let's keep working on the tree. We're going to first detail the texture of the hold on, let's get rid of that that masking layer there. It's a little more invasive than it needs to be. We'll end up trimming this down. Turns out yesterday when I got the trademark phone call, it was a scam. The trademark office will never ever, according to their website, they will never ever call you. So if you get a call, it is scammers. Luckily, they only had all of the information that was in my trademark request, because you can apparently search those as public records. So they had all my contact information, which is why they called me. So I didn't give them anything. They didn't read back to me. So luckily, I didn't get hit too hard, but I did at least provide them with confirmation that the information they have is accurate, which makes me sad. But, oh well. You can't defeat the terrorists if there are no terrorists to defeat. So, see good and bad. Just trimming the edges. The masking layer. There, that's good. Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's nice. And here we're looking at squatters. They're stuck in a tree. There's undead at the ground. They can't climb up to attack. But these guys sure as hell can't come down to run away. So that's a bit of a pickle for. Oh, that's what we were going to do. Hold on, real quick. Let's look at freshly broken tree branch. That's the stuff. Let's go up here to our reference folder. Hey, Domo. Try some art again. Nice. Congratulations. That's fantastic news. I'm going to go pick up a graphics tablet later. Just a basic Wacom one to start with, like I used to have. I use a Wacom Intuos 2 Pro. It's I think it's there's a line of them like A, B, C, D, E. I think this one's an E. It lets me use the Art pen. The default pen that goes with a Wacom tablet doesn't have rotation awareness. They call it the Z-axis, or if you're using Photoshop, it's hold on real quick. Let me fetch it real fast here for you. Brush settings. Here they call it on the brush tip shape dynamics. It's called brush projection. And here I'll show you. See here, this is a square, right? This is a really useful. What's the word? I'm trying to use a word. This is a really useful brush to use because it's fixed at right angles. Like if I'm making dungeons, this is fantastic if I'm just doing generic square passages. If I turn on the brush projector, I can now rotate it, and it knows my tilt angle, so you can see it's a trapezoid right now because it's aware that I'm holding my pen at an angle, and as I change the angle and rotation of the brush, it changes with it. So that's the brush projection, and you need to have the Art pen trademark from Wacom to be able to use that. So if you decide to get an Intuos 2, this quote unquote cheap, this Intuos 2 6x9, no, 8x12, I think that's the size. 9x8, yeah, no, 9x 9x16 maybe. I don't fucking remember. Anyway, make sure you check if that's what you're going for, and you want that rotation thing. You'll have to have the brush projector, and you have to have a Wacom Intuos 2 that will fit with it. So you can do a search. Which Wacom tablets can use the Art pen? ARTPEN. I think it's one word, but you can try it with spaces. But it has that tilt. It has a transponder at the top and at the bottom of the pen, so it knows its space in 3D. And if you rotate it, it knows that you're rotating it as well. So if depending on what kind of art you're getting into, like I can't do Bob Ross paintings unless I use that rotation effect, because the way that Bob does stippling when he taps the canvas with his brushes, that here I'll show you real fast, because we're going to get into foliage pretty soon anyway. So let's just take a conifer brush and let's go find a reference again real quick. Yeah, we're going to start with that. So we can drop reference out of the way, and See how I can rotate that and I can create clumps and shapes? That's what the brush, that's what that Z-axis brush projector can do for you in Photoshop. I don't know if you use Krita or Clip Art Studio or whatever, and I don't know what their graphic capabilities are. I can only assume that any graphic tablet that's being created at this point isn't at least capable of utilizing this function, because this is exactly how Bob does it. This is literally, I mean, I have a static shape of my brush, but the process of tapping and layering to create these little bundles of color is exactly how he goes about creating brushes. Say brushes again, asshole. Drop it down there. So yeah, we can have a background darkness here, and I can stutter the size by tapping the size up and down as I go to help create the same shape language, but at different distance. Obviously at different distances. I want it darker at the top and then lighter at the bottom. I'm going to use the same brush as an eraser because I'll never overlap. I'm highly unlikely to ever perfectly overlap the different brush movements. Hey, what's up? Yeah, this one is just a basic one. So if I got tired of banding rocks together, well, like I've said recently in one of the posts, like if you don't know how to do everything that you need to do, just using a basic round brush, you haven't mastered your tools yet. So if you start implementing brushes and different mechanical techniques to try to jump to better, like to make your art better through technical, it's like trying to pay to win your artwork by buying better tools or having better tools of it. You won't know how to use the tools properly because you haven't really mastered your own techniques. You don't know how you're supposed to use the tools with the style that you're developing to compensate that we can't be photorealistic. So all style is just coping with the truth that we cannot photo replicate unless you are some sort of savant. And so the rest of us have to develop a style that is basically, the conversation goes, I know this isn't photorealistic, so hopefully you think it looks cool, like the style is cool enough that you'll still think it's good looking art. That's basically what that conversation goes like inside of everyone that's looking at artwork. It's like, yeah, if it's photorealistic, it's not really art anymore. You're just replicating what you're seeing. The art comes from what are you like? Can you replicate what you can see in your mind, or can you only replicate what you're actually looking at? That's the difference in savant. Is like, can you actually imagine these things and create them, or are you stuck with what you're looking at? And a true savant would be able to imagine and then produce anything. So I'm going to use the eraser, and I'm going to use a lighter opacity on the eraser. So when I tap it in, it'll have variance of how much light comes through. And this will probably end up being something that I layer over and over again with different types of brushes to have a little bit of variety in texture. And then I might completely change my mind. So I only have 100 strokes to decide if this is working out the way that I want it to or not. And yeah, so far I'm good with it. It's at least that's a good starting point for me to have just as some grounding, just to get an idea of like what kind of contrast I might have like behind this guy as I set it up. So this is too dense. It's starting to just wash out into a block, which is not what I want. I want to have this texture that we have here. I want to sustain that. So I'm going to actually click back into that. See how I just made a little layer of branches in there by leaving this border here lighter behind how these branches are going. Now it looks like there's layers of branches on top of each other. I love this technique. Bob Ross is just a fucking genius. But all he does is stipple and smudge. That's all he does. Stipple and smudge. Stipple and blend. How about that instead of just smudge? But on the Photoshop, it's a smudge tool. And any brush that you rotate using, and what I did was I had paused YouTube videos of Bob, and then I zoomed in on his first dab of a brush, like when he's doing a bush, he'd hit it and he'd pull away. I'd pause it, and then I'd grab a screenshot of the tap that he did, and then I would build a brush out of it. That's where I got this brush from. So a lot of the brushes, like almost all the brushes I have in my brush set, I'm going to be posting my ASB file, the brushes that I use for Bob Ross techniques and dungeons and stuff. I am going to be posting those. It's a 500 subscriber celebration. I've just hit 500. I actually kind of want to get to 3,000 hours on top of it, because at 3,000 hours per year views with 500 subscribers, I can start. I can like have a Shopify window, so I could literally like post I could post a brush set for free, but I could have an advertisement here, like click here to grab my brush set if you want it. So I could have a permanent posting of my ASB file here for people to pick up, my Patreon page, and then stock art. and then I can set up my Patreon for the stock art. This is something I'm supposed to be getting figured out here, like while I'm on vacation right now. I had the same problem last year that I didn't want to, so I didn't. I'm currently using that 3,000 subscriber caveat as an excuse for me to not put in the work to set up that site yet. But until it can start showing up on the bottom rail, I'm only making the Shopify site because it shows up on the bottom rail. So until I can have something to show up on the bottom rail, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm in it for the money, but I'm more into it for the art than anything else. So you'll see an inconsistency in me taking actions that would make me a more successful business. So don't do what Donnie does. Let's take this, and I'm rambling now, like really, really hard. Do that. Yeah, hey, thanks a lot. Hi, Karen. Yeah, I'm at 2,892 hours of watch time per year right now, which basically means that I get about 8 hours worth of views per day on average, but it really needs to be 10 hours per day minimum for me to be able to lean into the Shopify thing. And that will my content is real click in, click out. Like if you aren't interested in whatever it is I'm talking about, you're going to dip almost immediately. So my retention rate on found audience is horrible. So YouTube hates me algorithmically. It's like, this guy can't retain an audience to save his fucking life. Like they really don't want to push me, except that I keep posting stuff every day. So like, oh God, he's consistent. Maybe we'll let you play, but they haven't figured me out yet. So, and I just figure if I just keep doing what I'm doing, the trends on YouTube will eventually bend around that what I do is what people prefer somehow. Like maybe in 6 years, this will be like an interesting style of stream to the common public. In which case, I will explode, and it'll be time earned. So whatever. But yeah, I really love that Bob Ross technique. It's so easy once you implement it. It's been a little while since I've done a video. Hold on. Let's go shopping real quick. Playlists. Digital paint techniques and tutorials. There's some mountainsides there. Thank you. Character commissions, color mechanics. Way of the shadow. I know I have digital painting techniques and tutorials. It's got to be in here. Oh yeah. This is totally it. So this whole stream here, our stream, yeah, my yeah. Boop. The digital painting techniques and tutorials walks through almost like all the stuff that I do to reproduce Bob Ross's work. And that screenshot you saw there, those were my paintings. Those weren't Bob Ross's. Those are the ones that I had created using those techniques in a digital medium. I actually reached out to the Joy of Painting Corporation about an ASB set and potentially certifying people using digital techniques, but they sell paint for a living in canvases and liquid white. So their response was, fuck off. You're damaging our money model. We aren't interested in ever talking to you. So it's like, that's fair. It's very, very fair. So cheers. I'll be doing this for a little while. I also have today on vacation. I have Monday and Tuesday on vacation as well. And after New Year, I'll be back to the grind as usual. I want to preserve that right now. I like how that sits. I just like this cascade we have going here right now. I'm just gonna blend that in a little bit. Let's merge that down just for the lulz. And let's grab a new color. Let's see. No, we don't have any. We'll get to that in a second. I want to keep messing around with branches in the background here. Jump into my ref. Yeah, we'll grab a lighter like that. That feels good. And then we'll have, and see over here on the RGB up in the right-hand corner. Since I don't see color, I rely on the RGB meter to let me know what colors I'm operating. This is obviously a very light green, which we pulled from here. And then there's the incredibly washed out red and green. Interesting that it would wash out that way, but that's from this color here. So I think that's neat. So I'm going to keep both of these. We're going to make this disappear. I like this. So we're going, and now we have another layer. We have the tree trunk. We have the dark layer of leaves. Now I'm going to switch up which branch, what kind of brush we use. This is that's a burst brush. I don't want to use a burst. Some of these I have set to randomize the size and orientation of the brush as I tap it, but sometimes it creates swirls, and sometimes that works for the composition. Sometimes it doesn't. So I'm just going to go with the foliage things. This is a very generic foliage branch here. See how when I tap, how it immediately switches its orientation and its size. That's a very loose it's a randomizer. So when I tap things together, it creates this variable sequence. And then if I keep the brush I used up here as my eraser and I tap through, I can be more intentional and directional about how I tap things out. So you can mix and match what I knew I needed with this is a very simple stipple shape to it. It's just a bunch of dots. So I knew I wanted to have a high degree of variability. So I didn't, because it's a distinct shape and it's just a series of repeating of just replicated dots. I was concerned about fractalizing nature is a good idea. The fractal effect of seeing the same pattern repeating at different scales is a huge piece of my D&D design, and I want to say that came about because I learned how to do Bob Ross techniques before I really got into scaling design systems inside of game engines. So I like to think that my brain kind of like what was it in Arrival, how if you spoke the aliens' language, you started to think like the aliens did. I always thought that was really cool. But the analogy there is I think I've spent so much time working on fractal scaling in Bob Ross paintings that when I looked at the problem of like Spelljammer combat, for example, my brain was immediately able just to feed in explore fractal scaling as a solution. And so that's how we got into squadron, fleet, combat, and stuff like that. So neat how one art then translates into another art. So translating from landscape painting into game design. I think that's a really... I just love that. I just think that's cool. Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna ramble. I'll be just rambling about shit forever. But it's a full. I think I have an entire. I think I have an entire painting. It looks like I did. Words, Phil. For the speaking of the Spelljammer book, Ukulele Bard, Joseph Vargas. He also did a bunch of Eberron work on the DMsGuild, and now he's a big Pathfinder enthusiast. He was an assistant designer for the Spelljammer book that we built, and I paid him in painting. So basically, a lot of times I can hire an editor, a writer, a technical lead, of different people to help me in creating a project, and I can pay them in custom art. So it's awesome when I get partnerships with people. It's like, yeah, I can do like 2 pages of art for you, or I'll like do a full cover color painting for you, and then they become my client, and then I spend time on stream doing their commission, and which is why like on Saturday I say, sometimes we do commissions, even though it's been a while since I've done any commissions. The last one I did was for Ukulele Bard, for his help with me in the Spelljammer book. So, and Ukulele, you're a god. I love you, man. I'm so happy to have you on my team. I'll be your wingman anytime. Bow, 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 bow. Bow, bow. Bow, bow. Bow. Ukulele Bard. All right, there you go. Yeah, so we're just... adding in color. It's going to be darker at the top because of leaf density, and as we go further down the page, it's going to get lighter. And this is early enough in the forest that there's still light that can get to you. The closer you get to the manifest zone, the gloomier it gets until you're in perpetual dim light. Like at some point, the only light that you get is from just the glowing radiance of the poisonous green gas fungus that grows on the ground inside of the manifest zone. So the light comes from the ground. The light is green. The air is poisonous. It's like the hell of upside down sitters in Big Trouble Little China. It's I kind of love that. And I also love poison condition and degrees of exhaustion. Like if you breathe this stuff in, you every hour you have to make a Constitution saving throw or become poisoned and gain a degree of exhaustion. And that is awesome because the 2024 mechanics are lighter. It's just a -2. It's just a stacking -2 penalty with just a little bit of movement reduction. It doesn't have anything like super weird going on with it. So I really like the new exhaustion system. And you can if you can spend a short rest in clean air, like get out of the manifest zone or like surround yourself with like a Liam's tiny hut, you can spend an hour and burn off the poison effect. So it's very temporary. But if you try to long rest in that in the fog, you can only gain the benefit of a short rest unless you're in, because the fog is just it's necrotic, it's poisonous, it's trying to kill you, so you can't recover properly. There. So the solution is one of the chemists, the alchemists that they have in the facility is crafting. It's basically taking moss and florets and some crystal from the environment, and using an alchemical process to basically create like an antitoxin. It's a potpourri that you shove into a plague mask, like from the Dark Ages when they had the plague. You put a mask on, and while the mask is active, it will last for it will sustain you for an hour. So after that hour, it dies off. You need to get more melange. This feels pretty good. Yeah, this is turning out pretty good so far. I'm very, very pleased. Now I can do another layer underneath it with that more pale color that we had found, and we're going to fill that in here. That. There we go. Just let it dance around, fill in the gaps. I want to leave some of these little points of light in here open. That's because of just natural sunlight filtering. But it feels pretty good. You don't need fancy magic when you can just shove some moss into a picking up. You go right, yeah. But so all the mercenaries that are patrolling the manifest zone for stray undead or curious looky-loos to drive them away from. I mean, there should not be any people getting to the manifest zone without encountering the mercenaries in the forest first. Like that's they would consider that like a major fucking breach. So they're going to get pissy if your team is able to evade their way into the manifest zone unescorted. But yeah, so once you get in there, the soldiers, they're all running around with these plague masks, and it only takes like a 2 and 2 and the characters get it. That's how it works. So as soon as they make saving throws on a poison, those face masks make like complete sense all of a sudden. So I will say that we first created the beginnings. We first envisioned this this adventure before COVID. It's been in production that long. We had multiple DMs, multiple play groups running through it. It's gone through multiple iterations, and then a ton of assets that slow down production. Like I could get the book done, but as long as the art isn't ready to go, who cares? What is? Oh, that's what I'm seeing there. I'm like, what is that stupid gap? And that stupid gap is a masking layer that gotta go. There you go, buddy. Get out of my life. So, God, this thing has been slow cooking, and it is highly debatable if I'll ever be able to recuperate the cost that went into this, or if Stuart Bras and Andy get fair compensation for their help in creating it. It's my first. I expect it to be a disastrous fail. I hope the Eberron community thinks it's cool. It'll be free preview like everything else that I do. I want to push this back here. So we'll see. We'll see. God, I like that. I know I need to add some more dark clumping up here, but I'm really enjoying the lighting that we have going on so far. Let me see. I've got a new layer going, so if something goes awry, it's not going to hurt anything. I work in multiple stacked layers, and once I can sit back satisfied, I can merge them all together into a single layer. I'm going to grab that shadow bit there. That's too shadowy, 2-bit. Lost it. Ooh, wow, that's too saturated. With the blue being so far behind R and G, that tells me that color has a lot of green saturation. It's too sharp for something that's going to be pushed to the background. This is darker and has less saturation. That's a good shadow effect. I just go, again, since I don't see any color, I just go off the black and white of it. Like the gray tone, does it feel good? And what I want to do is I want to have a little bit of separation here in the background between this guy that's squatting. I like this sun filter coming through because it hits her well, and it brightens her up. I need to actually trim this knee a little bit here. Get rid of that extra clump there. That needs to go. We'll get to that. I'll get to that when I get into her. Otherwise, she sits pretty. Let's do this. I need these branch tips to disappear into something, and I need to have a little bit of separation for this guy's shirt. Drop the opacity on that brush down to about that eraser down to about 30%. There. Back in, I want to say maybe it was 2019, 2018, something like that. I was experimenting with the idea of doing Pathfinder art. And then I found out how little they pay their freelancers. So I was like, well, never mind. But at the time, I was using the Pathfinder iconics just to improve my character art in general, and integrating characters into full art scenes, taking what Pathfinder had as inspiration, and so I took a portfolio to PaizoCon, which is in SeaTac, at the south side of Seattle Metro, and brought my portfolio, and I forget the name of the art director at the time, but he flipped through my portfolio and looked at the character art that I had done for the Pathfinder characters, and I had is it Leonie? Is the name of the gnome druid? But I had her perched in a tree. Not dissimilar to this, a little bit different, but not completely different. But he said, it looks like you used a texturing brush for your foliage. And I was like, yeah. And he says there's the consistency and lack of organic in the shape would make this particular illustration unusable for us unless you swap out the brushwork. So if you can work on your organic environments and make them feel more natural and less Photoshoppy, I think there's a ton of potential for us to work together. And I'm like, great. And then I found out how little they pay, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. If I need the clout, sure, but I never went back to them. But that launched me getting into, God, maybe it was 2014. Fuck, how long ago was that? That's what launched me into exploring Bob Ross. It's like, I need to figure out a way to do things more organically. And then it was like, well, you used to watch Bob Ross all the time as a kid. Why don't you tune into that on YouTube maybe? And sure enough, every episode he has is on YouTube, and he runs marathons every weekend. They run marathons every weekend of his art. So I just started watching it, and that's when I realized, oh, he's just stippling and smudging. I can do that. And then I became a serious student, and I can't get certified because I can't mix paint. And I don't use a live canvas. I only use obviously digital medium. So I'll never get certified by them. But I think I'm arguably, I could hold my own. Thank you. Timely timer, keeping time. I think I want to take this entire layer and drop the opacity at just a smidge. And then I want to add in an extra layer here again. I'm going to switch back to the other brush. And just do some targeted tufts. Targeted tufting. Hey, what's up? Oh, yeah. I used to, when I was 5 years old, back like in 1980 and 81, I'd wake up for the old Saturday morning cartoons. What a loss. But back in the days of Saturday morning cartoons, Dungeons and Dragons would come on at like 7:30, and so I'd wake up before that, and I would play with Legos in front of the TV all Saturday morning, basically from like 6:30 or from 7 o'clock till 1 o'clock. I'd have a 6 hour block where I'd sit and play Legos and watch cartoons. And Bob Ross would come on at 7 o'clock. So, and there wasn't anything else I'd like to watch. So I'd listen to Bob Ross while I played with Legos at 5, and basically kept doing it all through high school. I'd wake up in the morning, listen to Bob Ross and paint, or like sketchbook and stuff, and just listen to him constantly. So he's been in my life, like almost my entire life. It was so funny. There's this episode where he talks about talking to a colorblind guy about painting. And so he did an episode in grayscale, and it was so funny to me because it's like, I like as soon as I was 6 years old, and he said that, and like my head snapped up. I'm like, wait a second, what? And he went through the process, and I immediately was disappointed because I just knew, because it was the exact same question that I had. How it was neat to listen to him, but there's no way I could ever do this. How am I supposed to do this? I can't see color. So when he brought it up, it was like, oh my God, this is the answer. This is the answer. And he's like, just do black and white. I'm like, no, what he meant was, how am I supposed to be able to mix colors? I can do your stupid techniques. How am I supposed to mix color in real space? And you can't. But Photoshop didn't exist back then. So the answer immediately resonated. I was afraid to attempt it. I'd given up on ever trying to do color work. Even after I got in Photoshop, I didn't see the opportunity. I was just starting to get into digital tools, and I was lamenting how difficult, like how limited I feel, and because the world was turning color. This was when print on demand, PDFs, and the D20 era was just launching in the early 2000s. That's also when print on demand became affordable. It's also when high-speed internet became available pretty much globally. So I was now competing with artists in Singapore and Croatia or wherever, Turkey, that had a fraction of my household expenses, but were capable of producing the same level of art as I can, and had available the same digital tools to then be able to transmit them to an art director. So it illustration immediately became a global marketplace, competing against people with drastically different standards, and that's when I started to dip out of doing freelance. But it was I think like maybe 2004. No, it was like 2002. I think is when I got to that point. But and so I was lamenting to my friends. It's like I feel like I'm gonna have to dip out of doing this because I can't, I don't do color. And God bless you, Larry. He was like, have you ever tried? I'm like, what? I don't, how would I try? How would I even know if I was doing it right. What do you mean by tries? It's like, have you really thought it through, and have you tried to figure out how you can paint in color anyway? And I'm like, no. And he says, well, it just seems kind of like you're giving up until you actually try. I'm like, fuck you, Larry. Yeah, you're right. So that put a fire under my ass to like literally figure out how to do it, and how to do it reliably without having to get outside influence. And that's when I started to realize. That's when I realized that Photoshop tools could be used to reference illustrations by importing them into Photoshop and just using the eyedrop tool to grab the color references. So that's what got me actually launched into doing color art. So God bless you, Larry, for asking stubborn, great questions. I haven't talked to Larry in years. But I have a huge stein of mead waiting for you in heaven, my friend. Eternal thankful. That's part of my origin story. There you go. Shrinking down the brush size. And I gotta be careful about the brush size. If I make it too low, the dots bleed together, and it just looks like a smudge, and you kind of lose the stipple vibe. And this is all behind. We'll do some clumping in the foreground to add depth and like trim around here, like to look like you're looking up into the canopy of a tree. Not there yet, but it's on the way. I honestly don't know how I'm going to hang out today. I have today off. So I can get some. I'm going to get some. I'll stream here for a little bit today in the morning. Just like yesterday, I'm going to log off, get some. I got some house stuff to do and do some more page layouts. I've got the 2 pages at the front end done, so I'll be able to start working on the gatehouse, and then the flooded fortress, and then the cemetery. We'll work on them in that order to finish out the second act. So I got stuff done that I needed to get done yesterday. I'm very, very, very proud of myself. It feels like there was like a pseudo procrastinatory block that I get when I move from one section to another on this, because I'm never really sure exactly how I'm supposed to tackle the different components of the adventure. But once I can start envisioning it, it starts to flow like spice. Hey, what's up? Deep lore story time. I think I'd have been more creative, but my game design degree wasn't the best experience, so I created a negative association. I think been trying to work through. Fair enough, my guy. Fair enough. Yeah. It feels similar, relatable. So what we'll end up doing is, because that border feels ugly. Once we put the actual branches, like dark clumps of branches in, we'll come through here like this and like block out some of this negative space. Like, this never doesn't look good. It's always a cool idea, but you have to have enough. You have to have enough background color language built in to make it feel good. This is inspiration from Chinese block printing, actually. A lot of Bob Ross stuff feels like that. Japanese block prints, which is also basically preconceived shapes that are stippled together as blocks. It'll end up being something like that, which makes it much more organically blend into the page. It'll end up being something like that. Something like that. We'll mince over the details and like have a faded eraser here to poke at the edges, so like it comes in a little bit like that. But I'm just kind of wasting time right now because I'm not actually ready for any of that. So I could hit erase or back step like 1,000 times, so I'm just gonna grab and block this all back in here. So just going to get rid of all that for now, and we'll come back. We know what it's supposed to be like, so it's easy enough to come back in and grab that. Bop, bop, bop. There. So let's work on, what time is it? 7:30? We're doing good. The taste of clean. Let's work on bark a little bit instead. Let's see. This is what I wanted. Right, back into it. So I'm going to switch back to my round brush. There's that meat I was talking about. That pale meat. Meat. Good texture, good lighting as well on that bark. I'll be able to use that. That's good. That, and I want to grab this too. I think these are both valuable. I'm going to stack them up like that. Drop back down here. Burp, 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 burp. Leaves. Trunk. What are you on about? Oh, it's a smudgy background. I don't need that anymore. I'm just going to toss that away. Blip. It's going to be 57, so let's take that and drop that down to... and bring the folder back to full so I can just drop the leaves and trunk into the tree folder. There. Organization. So we have the tree, we have the people that are squatting in it, and then we have our references. Oop, foliage. Ooh, over foliage. I forgot I had done that. We may or may not keep that. And then there's a reference. Tree, foliage, squatters, there. Trunk. Cut, paste. Let's hide the foliage for now. When I was initially doing this yesterday, I had used the same layer for the highlights and darks of the branches, and that was a bad idea. So now I'm backtracking a little bit to fix it. I spent a little time yesterday afternoon expanding the mega dungeon that we're using for the playtest. It's I'm basically building zones of like anywhere from 5 to 10 room clusters at a time, and having like a linked theme so that there's a variety of change of terrain or monster or lighting conditions, etc. Like having an element of it change basically every 5 rooms or so. So as the team moves their way through the dungeon, I keep developing the dungeon ahead of them, and so I've got about. I'm sorry. There's more like 8 to 15 rooms per zone. And I've got about, I want to say 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 4 zones built right now, and they're currently pushing their way through the second zone. So I expect them this upcoming Monday to clear the second zone and get into the third zone. But we only play for 4 hours of 3, like more like 3 hours, with all yakety schmackety aside. We probably get about 3 hours with the game in, and it looks like they can push through a zone every 2 episodes or every 2 weeks. So as long as every week or so I've fleshed out another zone, I should always have at least 2 zones of buffer between where they are and what I have built. And like any mega dungeon, the higher level you get, the further underground you delve, the higher CR monsters and larger rewards of treasure you find. So that's how we're conducting the playtest, of just delving deeper and deeper. And as they gain levels, they expand the playtest to higher levels of tier. How's this going? And each zone, when they clear a zone and push deeper, they can set their most recent zone as like their anchor. So when they take as long as they have their back channel covered to be able to get out cleanly without like branches, like if there's a branch off behind them, they'll need to secure all the branches behind them so they don't get flanked. But once they've secured their 6, they can long rest in the most recent zone. So, but for them to gain a level, they have to go back to a settlement and carry their loot with them. So they don't have to worry about weight capacity until they decide to leave. At which point they need to decide, there's a lot of treasure that we got. Do we have the strength or means to cover it? And presumably they came in with on foot, because they didn't know how long they were going to be in the dungeons. They don't have any like beasts of burden or anything, nor is there any guarantee when they were going to come back outside. So they would have to also have hirelings that their job would basically be to squat in a forest with orcs nearby for however long it takes for them to return, which might not be ever. So it's a high risk proposition that they were kind of asking, and they couldn't really get anyone to jump on board with that. So they had to go out on their own, and they can't have the horses. Otherwise, they just have to let the horses go free. Otherwise, they could just sit and die where they're at. So they're on foot, and it's going to take 5 days for them on foot to get back to civilization. And they can only carry with them whatever they can actually carry, because we're making encumbrance be like a thing. Hey, there's my timely timer. So like they've gotten a lot of gold, but a lot of it's in like gold leaf shavings that's mixed in basically that's still bonded to concrete. So it weighs 3 times the amount it's supposed to. So it's like that coinage isn't very valuable. But they've also started finding gems worked into different portrait like different paintings, murals and stuff that they're finding on these temple walls that haven't been pillaged yet. So they're able to scrape. Yeah, they can scrape gems from the eyes of snake murals. In gems in D&D 5e, gems are basically the same weight as a gold coin or a coin, TM coin. Gold coin is the standard. Then you have platinum, which is 5 times the value. And then from there you go into gems and jewelry, which could be anywhere from platinum is at 5 gold pieces per coin, and then you get into like semi-precious stones, which can be anywhere from 10 to like 50 gold pieces a piece. So it's either 10 times or 50 times the value of a gold piece for the weight of the gold piece. So as your character scales up in levels, you move away from coins and you move into jewels, crystals, and like mana stones and stuff like works of art and stuff like that are worth a lot more than their weight. And magic items, which you can sell if the community, like if the settlement you go to is large enough to be able to absorb the cost of the magic item, which we were looking at a little bit yesterday when we were working on the Bastion system. The gold that a settlement can absorb on a daily basis. So if you need to unload 6,000 gold worth for you to gain the experience points needed to gain like level 6. No, that'd be more like level 8. But regardless, you would have to, if you have 6,000 gold per person to unload to gain a level as a team, then you need to find an establishment that that can process that much gold. So like you'd have to go to probably go to a city, because it's like basically like I think it's 20 gold, 20 gold, 80 gold, 800 gold, 8,000 gold, and 40,000 gold, I think, is the scale from a hamlet to a metropolis per day. So if your team needs to unload 6,000 gold, there's 4 people on a team, that's 24,000 gold. If you head into a metropolis, you could unload that in a day. But you also need one week per level of down/training time using the Beckme system. So like the character's at 3rd level right now. If they get 4th level, they're going to leave for a month. And so when they come back, they may find new monsters populating areas that they had previously cleared but filled back in their absence. So they'll have familiar terrain to cover again, but potentially, and that's covered by random encounters. So you run a random encounter, basically you can roll a d6, and that's how many rooms in you're going to move into a zone before you run into a random encounter, which could be anything from further down the dungeon that's come up in levels to explore the space that got opened up because of the power vacuum. So you'll wander or encounter through the complex until you get to your previous set point, and then you start exploring new territory again. But you could have, like, depending, like each zone is going to have at least one random encounter. So if the team's gone through 4 zones, it could take an entire session just to get back to their set point so they can start again. And with the Beckme system, you don't gain any gold, you don't gain any experience points for killing monsters. You have to get loot. So those wandering encounters you have to wade through to get back to your original point has 0 XP value unless they have magic items or something that they're carrying. Hey, Karen. Yeah, it was great. Hey, Omni, it's good to see you, my guy. Christmas was good. Spent some time with family. Very relaxing. Had some fantastic pork curry with, veggies. Super tasty. Nom nom. Otherwise, it was very quiet. Watched some junior British bakers. Or British bakers. Whatever it is. There's the Great British Bakers Bake Off, I think is what it's called. I don't know. Anyway, it's a Netflix thing. It's a cooking show. It's got massive amounts of heart. Like cooking is like golfing. You know, you're really competing against yourself and trying to make the best thing. And if you just happen to make the best thing of everybody in the room, then you're number one that week. And then somebody gets eliminated each week until they get down to the final, like 3 finalists to compete over a final bake for the day. But it has so much heart. Because when you're done baking, you're just basically handing out. And sometimes people get in trouble, overburdened, something goes wrong, they drop something, they need help. And if other bakers are done, they'll just step in and start helping. And it's amazing. It's really, really cool. So a ton of heart. And then they have a version for kids. So there's like 8 seasons or something of kids baking as well. And I just found out about that. So I'm enjoying that. My family's tradition on Christmas Eve is to watch something utterly un-Christmassy. Like 1 year we watched Dangerous Liaisons. Another year we watched a doubleheader of Commando and Predator. This year it was a double feature. 28 days later and then 28 weeks later, we watched those back to back. And there's going to be 28 years later in June. So high anticipation there. They aren't particularly good zombie movies, but the premise is pretty good. Experimental viral infection drives people mad, become zombies. Hilarity ensues. Hey, that's cool. Shrimp and steak. Holy shit. That's fantastic. Yeah, Great British Baker Bake Off. Yeah, that's it. Thanks, Domo. Love that show. Great British Bake Off. I think it has a different name in America. But like, cause we started like, what's season 8 to you is season 1 to us. Liam, the guy that's the host on the kids British baking show, he was a contestant and he lost out. Like he was like the fifth to last, maybe the fourth to last, when he finally got dipped out. But he ended up getting a job as the host of the kids baking, or not the host, but one of the judges on the kids baking show. And he's super good with kids. Him and the gal that he is his that's his co-host is they're both super good with kids and they're very fun. It's the host is horrible. God, their hosts are the worst, just the fucking worst. And the one on the kids baker is absolutely the worst of the worst. But it's funny because the kids, like, after a while, the kids have like no patience for him, so they start sassing him back. it's so great, but he's got so much Loki energy. It ends up working out, even though he's obnoxious. He's just a complete like Uncle Trickster. My nephew calls my dad Uncle Grandpa. It's so funny. My dad passed away last year, so it's not so much relevant anymore, but it was hilarious at the time. He ended up having a brain tumor, and he went down pretty quickly. But that was last year's drama. He was a good man. All right, almost squared away. 100% there, Kearney. Yeah. Hey, right on, Tomo. Hey, good shopping, my sir. I will catch you on the flip side. Let me know what's up. Happy to offer any feedback if I have any. If you want to, if you're not, or I don't honestly know if you're in my Discord or not. If you aren't, the link's down. I think the link's down below. You're welcome to jump in, and if you have any questions, be welcome to ask. I'm not the only tablet artist on my Discord, so you might be able to get some variety and feedback from folks if needed. So feel welcome, please. See you later, guy. There. That feels good. I feel like this should be filled in here. Or maybe she should be shifted back. Maybe. One or the other. Regardless, that space needs to be... I feel like she should shift, like, maybe tilt just a little bit differently. We'll figure it out. All right, so back to where we actually wanted to be here. This is where we were intending on starting today, and we've finally floated back around to it. Let's get back up in here. Grab this dark bit. And this medium bit. Oh, that's really dark. That's too dark. That's good for now. Something like that. Probably a good way to start. We'll be able to flesh that out. I need to... Let's go with yeah, it's not bad. Let's start there, and then let's try that. Actually, let's try that. dump. Yeah, that color's okay. I want to grab something. Yeah, something like that. Not quite that dark. Maybe like that's a good one. I like that. We'll go there. Backing those bits up here like that. Some variance is fine. I just want to cover where it's at. Separate layers so I don't mess up the understructure. There. And now I can take, let's grab our chisel brush here. Normally I use this brush for drawing mountain tops. And like broken fields, but if I thin it like this and push the opacity up to 100%, I can grab and drag these lines of contrast up the branch to create those wood effects. And I can use the same brush as an actual paintbrush and thin it just a bit. Break that up a little bit, but doesn't take long for it to look like pretty good bark. Then we just use the negative space with the eraser to break it up so it doesn't look so obviously repetitive. Again, talking to the replication patterning. Yeah, it does not take a lot to make really cool looking bark. So we're doing the dark layer first, and I'm just making sure that I change which direction I'm using, either having it like folding this way or folding this way. Both are fine. But I just want to make sure I break up the shape occasionally. So I carve at it with this 100% smudge brush, so I can grab and pull on little bits and then cut through them to create that variance. The higher percent of strength the smudge brush has, the more it picks up and carries pixels with it. So like a 100% brush will take 100% of the pixel information, color information, and carry it 100% of the distance that you take it here, like that. See, it's just carrying it perpetually, as opposed to if I were to drop this down to like 50% and I grab you can see like it barely affects it. It only grabbed and smudged it a little bit because it's only grabbing 50% of the color information and only pulling 50% of the way before fading out, so it quickly erodes. So if I'm going to do a drag like that, it's probably going to have to be somewhere like around 70 plus. Now you have like a motion blur, and then maybe like up around 90. Hold on. more like around 9. I'm trying to hit the 9 button here, sons. Thank you. 90. I can see I can pull it some distance, but it's still just constantly fading out. So 100% is like is basically where I need to be able to grab and drag this bark texture. But then I can use the same eraser at 100% to carve through the and shape and make these neat little organic shapes all throughout it. I got to make sure it doesn't have too many little fuzzinesses going, like some little blips, like little knobs and stuff sticking off this side feels good, but if it starts to look like a ladder, it's you've gone too far. And again, once I get to 3,000 hours of view, I'm at 2,891 hours as of today, and it's been fluctuating around there for about a month. So I know that's my fault. I just either need more people on board or create better content to retain more people longer. But I will get once I hit 3,000, I can start doing like a little Shopify thing underneath the screen, underneath the video. And once I get to that point, I will make my ASB brush set available for anyone that wants to use it, and tag in with me and watch the stuff that I do. And you can be like me, being like Bob Ross. Be like me, be like someone else. I just think that's funny. I'm just about done here for the day. We're going to work on Bastions some more today. We're going to come back at 1:30 Seattle time, which will be 4:30 East Coast. Now we're going to be looking at Bastion events and What just happened? We're going to look at Bastion events from the DMG and convert them into complications, depending on the order that was issued and the rank of the task. I think we have some scaffolding there that we can build out for the concept of Bastion adventures and or Bastion campaigns, as it were. There, that's feeling really, really good. Yeah, you do the darker layer first to get the foundation, and then we can do highlights over it. That's the way that Bob teaches it. And if it's good enough for Bob, it's damn well good enough for me. There. There we go. Pretty good. there. That feels pretty good. Not bad. Texturing is coming along. It's a good little painting. I'm really happy with this so far. I need to make sure I punch up the contrast between her leaning against the tree and the bark itself. So I'll probably put patches of sunlight in here to help create that dichotomy. But we'll suss that out tomorrow. So it's 8 o'clock here. This is naturally the time that I would typically stop on a typical day. I don't feel like I need to extend my time here right now, but I do want to work on the book layouts. And I don't think I want to bore you with that process. So I'm going to dip for now. I'm going to be back. Let's come back at 12:30 instead. Fuck it. It's my day off. I do as I please. So 12:30, I'm going to come back in. That'll be in 4.5 hours from now. And we'll put in a couple hours on the Bastions. In the meantime, I'm going to keep work on page layouts and get some stuff picked up here around the house. And I'll catch up with you guys in 4.5, maybe 5 hours. Later.